It's, it seems like the companies that were building it, they call them the Seven Sisters, you know, all the big oil companies were grouped together. And the operating company was called Alaska Pipeline. And it was like somebody flew over Alaska and said, let's drop $9 billion on these guys and see what they do with it. It was totally unbelievable.
Okay, so you got all this money.
Yeah. Got all this money. And then at the end of the pipeline, I told my partner, you want to buy this company from me or you want me to buy it from you? We'll flip a coin, come up with a fair price. Flipped the coin, he won, he bought me out. And I said, okay, now I had a little money. Went to work, drilling for uranium for Exxon and Chevron up in the Seward Peninsula for a company called Resource Associates, and was just a guy hauling the drill rig around. And from there, I started getting more interested in the mining end of things. And keep in mind, I'm still a young guy. I'm not married yet. And we'd go to Costa Rica. I bought a farm down there and decided I'd be a coffee farmer. I wasn't worth a shit at that either. I had some lemon trees growing, and the first deal I made, I sold 500 lemons for $3. I said, I don't think I'm going to make money, not farming. So I go back to Alaska, and I protected the little wealth I had. I was able to protect by going to Costa Rica. And this Costa Rica is named Costa Rica because of its beauty, not because it's got a lot of treasure. But when you have conquistadors going by, going, let's call this place Costa Rica, these murderous guys going totally, and the Incas and the Aztecs can attest to this. They're there for treasure. And so I got back to Alaska, started getting serious. My wife's name is Ramona. We got married when I was 28. And we have 5 kids of our own. You met the youngest out there, Elora. And Drew is my CEO and her husband. And her sister, just older than her, they own a company called Gold Daughters. And my wife and I bought an old dredge after I'd gone. I decided to go mining for somebody else as an equipment operator. So I went up and I drove a loader 712s and was able to get paid in gold, and that would help get me through Costa Rica. And the price of gold when I started was $250 an ounce, and when I ended it was $800 an ounce. And I said, oh, this is glorious. So I was making money gold mining and learned a lot about gold mining. I learned a lot about how to do it, and I learned a lot about how not to do it. And so after that, I decided, well, I got to get into something else. I was driving back to town, and I had to stop. I'd been drinking some beers, and I had not had a beer all summer. And through the trees, I see these big metal pipes sticking out of the ground. It was the fall time, so I walked back there, and it's a gold dredge. Are you familiar with what a gold dredge looks like?
The machine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big, huge floating barge with a digging ladder and a tailing stacker and a trommel. This one was it's a 6 cubic foot dredge. I mean, each bucket would hold 6 cubic feet of dirt. And while I was there, some other people drove in. They walked in, and I'd never seen one. I didn't even know it was there, just outside of town. And these people were going on it, and I said, man, this would be a cool tourist attraction. So I found out who owned it, and I got a hold of the guys that owned it, and I said, hey, you guys want to sell that dredge? And they said, sure, we'll sell it. We were going to turn it into a tourist attraction, but we bought some leases in a place called Prudhoe Bay. Oh, okay. You guys don't want to be in tourism anymore. They had some of the best leases in Prudhoe Bay where the oil's coming from. So I bought it. We bought it. Moved a bunkhouse over there to it. Turned it into a really nice tourist attraction. And then I said, Carnival Cruise Lines owned a company called Holland America West Tours. They came up and said, hey, I was in my 40s. They say, you're a pretty young guy. We don't think you should ever have to work again. I said, I've been thinking the same fucking thing. So they bought it from us. Okay, now I'm out of tourism. I want to go mining. And I got to know the owners of a company called Alaska Gold Company. prior to that was called Fairbanks Exploration Company, and the parent company to that was called United States Smelting, Refining, and Mining Company. So I was the next guy in line. It was a privately owned company all that time. And at the time I bought that company, I became the largest private landowner in Alaska, with 10,000 acres of patented land with proven reserves close to 800,000 ounces. And gold was low. These guys were tired of it. They'd run it from 1925 until I bought it. It took out over 8 million ounces. I'm going to say over 8 million, but records indicate a little bit different. And in the process of that, I went down to Utah and got all their archive material, which included all the notes and the correspondence files, and exploration files, and the stratigraphic files, and the researches. All the paperwork they had in Boston, because Boston was where USS R&M was headquartered. So I had kind of an advantage in the gold mining business, because now I have 10,000 acres of land, a lot of it already mined out by the dredges. But the dredges only took what they could make at $20 an ounce. And when they stopped, it was $35 an ounce. And I didn't check today, but I think it's close to $1,800 an ounce. And they only mined what was good at that time. It's like if you imagine a chicken. You got the white meat, which is where all the pay was, and then you got your drumsticks and your wings on the margins. And that's the kind of stuff that was left. And it wasn't worth mining back when I bought the company, but it is now. So now we have some really good properties and the exploration files that cover the entire state of Alaska. And Drew out there, he's got hard rock claims in Valdez that we picked a file out of the exploration files and identified an area that no one even knew about, except our company engineers who died decades ago. Our consultants are all dead. All these reports that we read were written in the 20s and 30s, and 40s. But they're all gone. And they weren't trying to promote mining. They were trying to find gold. So if they say there's gold here, there's gold there.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing now. We're a mining company. But now we've morphed into a land management company, because we've got a half a dozen mines that are on different pieces of our ground, mining. And we just manage the land. Make sure that, we got legitimate people mining.
Okay, so this is how you get to the land. How do you get these bones? How does this all start?
Get into that.
Okay.
And the way I discovered the bones is after I bought the property. There was a stripping pile done by an adjacent miner that was dumping overburden on these flat tailings. And I had a tour guide, and a big guy. I said, Josh, run over there and find me a mammoth tusk. I'd never found a mammoth tusk, but I'd heard they were finding them over there. And the ground they were dumping on was on my ground. So he went and he says, what do they look like? I said, well, they look like tree trunks, only they got a curve to them. So he went, he was gone half an hour, he comes back with a 7-foot tusk over his shoulder. I went, holy shit. I said, go get me another one. He went, came back an hour later with another one about 3 feet long, a broken one. So I walked over there to look at this area where the mining was going to take place. And they ended up mining it. They had a right to mine it. The company took out about 3,000 ounces out of this one little area. And I was like, God damn, this stuff stinks. So one day we were walking around the area after they had mined it, moved on to another place. And we followed the smell. We walked around the side of this hill, and we got up in this little draw. And we were picking, my kids were with me too. We were picking bones off the ground, little shards, little leg bones and stuff. So we filled up a garbage bag with those. We went back again and again and again, and then I took an excavator back, built a little road around the side so we get back to it with a machine. Took a couple digs out of the muck, found a mammoth tusk. I said, oh boy, let's get something going. So then we got a big floating barge and put a pump on it, 471 Jimmy. with a giant. They're called giants, but they're actually hydraulic monitors. They look like big long pipes that you spray water out of. And our pump was a 8-inch intake, 6-inch outtake, and we nozzled it down to 2 inches, 2.5 inches. We could fire the water way out there and wash the overburden away. And the overburden there is about 60 feet high. It's permafrost, silt. And underneath that, you have your gravel layer. And underneath the gravel, you have the gold and the bedrock. And the gravel layer and the muck interface is where most of the bones are. So we started finding lots of bones. I mean, a lot of bones. And in the first 3 years, we found thousands and thousands of tusks and bison heads and bones. And by the way, all those skulls you got out there in your building here,
Yeah.
you ain't got a step bison skull. I'm gonna fix that shit. Okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna. And then I don't even know how many we have. We stopped counting. And mammoth tusks, same thing.
And when did steppe bisons go extinct?
12,000 years ago.
Wow.
And
So the permafrost is slowly melting, and you are hosing it down and pulling it. So the stench is literally like this ancient, rotting biological material.
it stinks.
Wow.
It's organic.
But it's been frozen forever.
Thousands, 20,000 years, 30,000 years, 50,000.
So this is you with the hose spraying it onto the side of this wall. So
Yeah.
the way you do it is you just spray the side of these, like, what would you call that hill?
It's a muck bench.
A muck bench.
Yes, sir.
So you spray that until you see something poking through?
Yes, sir. Well, you spray it, and then you walk up there and you turn the nozzle off the side, and you'll pick up the bones, the little pieces, leg bones, back bones.
Why is there
vertebrae.
so much in this one area?
Nobody knows.
Really?
Nobody.
Well, that's what's so crazy. Like, when I watched the documentary on your place,
Uh-huh.
when you show this giant room where you have all these buckets of femurs and skulls and tusks, and you have those paleontologists who are just like, they can't even believe what they're seeing.
Yeah. That's because a lot of those animals, they say, never lived up there during the Ice Age. So when they see it, and they still think that, I just say, well, they sure as fuck died here.
Dude. So it's changing their ideas of what existed in that area.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And what's the oldest bones you guys have found?
We don't know.